Howdy once again, it's tubalcain, Mr. Pete 222, your YouTube shop teacher, this time with number 44B, the answer to my What Is It Mystery Tool series. Make sure you watch 44A, the question, although I understand many people just like to watch this part, and that's just fine as well. Thank you for contributing and making many comments. I usually do not answer comments in this series. I let you banter around between each other and have fun, and there's always some great answers. Some of them are far out, some are funny, some are tongue-in-cheek, and so on. But I wasn't totally sure on this hydraulic cutter. Well, we all knew it was a hydraulic cutter, but what for? Well, I went to the, Burndy site. I had this covered. And they make electrical devices of all kinds, crimpers and cutters. And there were quite a few electricians that work on heavy cable and said that this is definitely for copper or aluminum cable. And I deduced that from the fact that this is way too acute of an angle to cut wire rope. Although some of the electricians said they do cut the steel guy wire that they use on utility poles. So I suppose it can be used for that, but in fact it appears to be meant for electrical cable. And there is the model number if you want to look it up. And I think this is a fairly expensive tool if one had to buy it. And this one is really in pretty good condition, I would say. But you can tell that it is used. So that's what number one is. Let me hold that up just a little closer. And the former owner has his name all over this thing. Item number two is a Wallstrom, and here's how you spell it. Quick acting or drill chuck. Notice that it has 4 jaws instead of the usual 3, and it's marked right here, as you can see. I'm going to Wallstrom chuck. And there's the model number. This is probably quite old, and it's made by American Machine and Foundry Company, and there is the capacity of it. Now, I made a shank for it so that I can demonstrate this in a minute. I really haven't ever used one of these, but I think these were used long before multiple spindle drill presses and things like that, and certainly long before OSHA. But it's an interesting device that just allows the operator to quickly change the drill bits or the tooling without turning the machine off. Therefore, it is somewhat dangerous. So I'll give a rather long demonstration on this right now, both in the drill press, and then I'm going to put it into the lathe so you can get a little better look at what's happening. And this lighting just isn't working at all here, is it? I have it mounted in the chuck of the Delta drill press, which makes the whole darn thing way, way too long and lacking rigidity, but it's just fine for this demonstration. Thank you. There were quite a few people that knew what this was, so it's not just that big a mystery. But here's how it works. I'm going to turn the machine on, and I got a 1/4-inch drill bit in here, and I'm going to release that while the machine is running and then install a larger bit. Let's see how that works. I'm not too used to this thing myself. See how quickly that worked? Now I'm going to do that a couple times, then I'll try to do it in slow motion. You know, this is really a neat device, isn't it? And I'm surprised that it just fell out of favor. I don't know if it's a danger issue or what, but let me put it over in the lathe chuck and take a view from a different angle and see if you can understand what's happening without me taking it apart. I don't know what's happening inside. I probably should do a video on that. Thank you to Mike Ogle from Griffith, Indiana for sending this over to me. Or I believe he gave it to me at the meet and greet. Okay, here it is in the Atlas chuck so that you can see the end view. Now watch as I open and close it. The lathe is in back gear, so we won't have quite such a rapid motion. And watch, again, 4 jaws, not 3. Pretty neat. Now, how tightly it grips, maybe I just said that, I really have no idea. Nor am I going to pursue it anymore because this is lost technology. Well, this item was a no-brainer. Most of you had this. And it's simply a base for the starett caliper. Now, whether it works on others, you know, as far as that dimension, I don't know. But it's meant to be put on the tool like this. I'll tighten it down. And then your caliper can be used as a depth gauge. Well, it already can be. It just gives it a more stable base. Item 4 are round nose chisels that can be used for cutting oil grooves and give a rounded groove rather than a flat one. Now, according to the McMaster car catalog, this is a real old catalog, really from the 50s, they kind of categorize the round nose and the Cape chisel in the same little section here, so there's a similarity, you know, and you can buy those for about $1 60 years ago. So there are 4 major classifications of cold chisels, but many possibilities or variations within each category. And remember, cold chisels are for cutting metal while it's cold, as opposed to a hot chisel. There's just a regular flat chisel. And then I talked about Cape chisels and the diamond point chisel, and then finally the round nose chisel, available in many different sizes, and they are still available, and I'm shocked at how many people knew what these are and still use them. Now, I've been using these things off of the internet. I hope that I'm not breaking copyright laws, but I do understand there's a fair use law as well. But you can see here number 3 is round nose chisels are used to cut concave grooves. There they are again. I also took this off the internet. I hope Stanley doesn't get mad, but Stanley encouraged education, and these charts, I don't remember whether they were free or not, but I had them in the metal shop, and there were a series of them for wood teachers as well. They could be set on the chalk tray, or they had grommets at the top to hang them, and there was a whole series of them. They were quite heavy, perhaps 1/8 or 3/16 thick, very sturdy. They would last many years, and they were printed on both sides with different information, and you can see here at the top, well, anyway, someplace on there it tells it what chart number this is, and this covered cold chisels. I remember using this at school as a way to put the kids to sleep. I'm fully aware that I beat that subject to death, but I was even considering a full video on cold chisels and how to use them. Here's a piece of aluminum with the round nose chisel. Let's see what it does. They would be very easy to sharpen. There you go, and that would be very nice for putting oil grooves in babbitt or brass bushings or bearings. This mystery tool was a mystery to most people, but a couple guys had it right, and I believe I showed one of these in another video, but remember this was given to me by Kevin Nieblock, and he bought it at an old school auction where there were several of these, probably unused. And it is an Empire brand spring wire. So first of all, I found the original directions. Let me show you those, and then we'll show you how the music wire, piano wire, I always call it piano wire, is inserted. I like showing this old stuff, and I know there are just a few guys out there at least that enjoy it, so I'm going to take the time to do this. You can wrap it forward if you don't like this, but again, here's the Empire Universal Spring Wire, and it's a product of Green, Tweed and Company. Boy, I bet they've been gone for a long time. And this paper is quite mutilated, but here's a man standing before the lathe. I like those old pictures too, don't you? And he's winding a spring around a mandrel. Notice how he's holding the tool, and that the wire is fed in from this end. And this is the tensioning device, because piano wire is quite unruly if you've ever handled it. And it will produce all types of springs that'll do it quickly, safely, and accurately. And there's a bit of a set of directions there. And now there's more. Wait, there's more. I haven't really done much of this type of work, but I had considered making a video really years ago when I found these directions. But read through that, pause your video if you would have a notion or have any interest. And there again is telling you how to make compression springs or extension springs. And you need a lathe, but I suppose you could just do it with a vise in a pinch. I have quite a selection of this music wire, and as you know, or as I just said, it's extremely unruly and hard to handle, and they attempted to make a spool that would eliminate that, but that's very questionable. So you would feed the wire through here. Now I realize I actually have two of these, and there's a little bit of a difference. This one has a brass washer, and this one has more or less a fiber. And I don't know which one is the older of the two, or why they changed the design, or maybe the fiber was cheaper than the brass, who knows. But you can adjust it here for the thickness of the wire, and I believe those are arbitrary numbers rather than numbers that refer to the gauge of the wire. But this is essentially a clutch here, so that it will feed out and be restrained in some way. And you would need somebody to help you with this bird's nest back here. So it wouldn't be easy in a school for a 15-year-old boy, and that's why these were never used. And now, let me tell you something else. And then, of course, you turn the machine on very slow. You'd have it in back gears and proceed to wind them. And because of spring back and all of that, I guarantee you would have to make several of them and practice and do trial pieces. In the machinery handbook, there are pages and pages of information on this that no one has ever read. It's all coming back to me. In this box, and it was brand new, those were the directions, and this came from an auction at Mooseheart. Now, Mooseheart is an orphanage for boys up in the Aurora area, north of Aurora someplace, and it's still there, I believe. But I know a man that went to an auction there because they sold out all of the shop stuff. This is about 10 years or more ago, and this is something that he had, and he gave it to me. This is another man. This is not Kevin. He gave it to me because he didn't know what it was, and he never even took it out of the box to look at this. And that also means that the folks at Mooseheart never had, you know, 15-year-old boys making springs. So I don't know. Again, this is lost technology. Why would you ever do this? And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to try to demonstrate it because I've never done it myself. And now last, and certainly most least, are these items still unidentified as far as I'm concerned. Now, I got a lot of answers on these, but I believe that in most cases they did not know, or their tongue was placed firmly into their cheek when they gave me an answer. And some seemed so dry-humored that I'm not sure just how deeply embedded that tongue was in their cheek. So I'm not going to carry this any further because I just think this is scrap iron, as nice as it looks. I don't believe it could have anything to do with medicine, because in the medical industry it would be stainless steel, and they probably wouldn't use the knurl for cleanliness, and they wouldn't use it in the food industry probably with a knurl. And food industry also would use stainless. I don't believe this is stainless. It's just steel that is chrome plated. Well, from this piece, this has been machined. That is not plated. You can tell that's just plain steel and not stainless steel. So I'm going to say this is still a mystery, and it's scrap iron. Now, this video ran much longer than most of my what is it, so I hope I didn't belabor the point. That concludes this video. Thank you for watching. This is tubalcain saying so long for now, and I'll see you in one of my other videos, I hope.